So I always get cast as the king, the gods, and that's great. Yeah, it's good. As opposed to ingenue, which I would just have to have a better facial care program. My name is Kenn Hopkins, Jr. I'm playing Cymbeline and Sibling and Gloucester and King Lear, all by Shakespeare, of course, I think. You think? That's a whole other interview. Preparation can mean many things for different actors. What helps me out the most is knowing what every character says or feels about me. That informs me the most. Some plays it doesn't, but for the most part, I at least like to know all the characters, so then I can kind of like be personal with actors. So whatever choice they bring to the table, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see why you would do that, or I see what kind of actor you are, or what you like to do. I like to pick up on people's habits early, some of my secret weapons. And in real life, I just feed off of people anyway, so I feel like that's my strongest place, is to know the other characters. I tend to get around to my character last. I'm always kind of thinking about the other person first. It doesn't make me an angel or anything, but I feel like we'll have more room. The more I know about your character and your choices, we'll have more room to play. Now, I do agree that if you're the lead, like if I was playing King Lear, of course, I should focus more on my role, because I think directors tend to want the lead to be the biggest influence on other people's character choices. Oh man, that's a well, first of all, I played Sibling before, and I remember getting a script, and they were like, oh, do you want to play Cymbeline, the title role? I was like, oh yeah, and they introduced it in the email. I won't say the company's name. They introduced it in the email as the title role, and I was like, oh, of course. And I'm reading through the script, and you're looking for your lines to highlight, and I think it was altogether 8 pages that I appeared on in this particular cut. And I just didn't understand that until I read it, and I was like, oh, this is Imogen, okay. But great people don't have to speak much. Yes. I performed in the summer of 2015. I played the Prince of Morocco in The Merchant of Venice, as well as the Duke, and I actually worked with Jack. Jack played Shylock, and I think it was Macbeth as well. I didn't play in Macbeth, played by Adam Noble. I worked in the Houston Shakespeare Festival Conservatory, and I think all those kids I think they all graduated from college by now. I'm telling my age right now. Yeah, I think they all graduated from college, and I got them right when they were in their last year of high school, I believe it is. Brilliant kids, man. Some of them taught me some things about Shakespeare. You can edit that out. I like the short rehearsal process more. I feel like it keeps you from paralyzing something by analyzing it. I feel like I partner better with the actors, because everybody has this sense of urgency that we really only have about 2 weeks to create. And then from there, it's about staging, microphones, costumes. So I actually like it more. It kind of puts fire under everybody in a good way. Yes, sir. So I always get cast as the king, the gods, and that's great to everybody who doesn't always play the kings and the gods, right? I love it now because I've become comfortable with it, and I think for me, people look at me 6'7", I go to the basketball court, and they're like, okay, cool, get in the post, and I'm like, ah. But really in my heart, I'm a point guard, man. I want to do all the Iverson crossovers and the three-pointers, and I'm skilled, arguably, but just my size, I would do better in the post, and it's been the same with theater. I'm like, I want to play Hamlet. They're like, Ken, we got to find you an Ophelia, or I want to play Romeo, we got to find you a Juliet. And I haven't found that. I mean, there's not a lot of 6'5" actors out there that I've met that could play alongside me in those roles. Not a lot of directors want to put the tall guy. When you tower over everyone on stage, you just look like everybody's dad, king, or God. So even so far now, man, just being 35 as opposed to playing kings when I was 25, like just life experience and just understanding the capacity of that responsibility. Bless you. The capacity of that responsibility. Yeah, it's one of those things I'm glad to age into. It's kind of good for the career, right? I can look forward to being 50. Yeah, it's good. As opposed to ingenue, which I would just have to have a better facial care program. Know thyself. And I feel like a lot of times, especially in the Western world today, that people don't get the time to know themselves in a position of power. You really don't understand the magnitude of the power until you're in the position, right? You get promoted to manager and you don't really know the manager position until you've had a few years of experience. But by then, what damage have you done, right? What breakage has happened to the business? And I feel like in leadership, King Lear, like we don't know what happens to a king in age. Rest in peace, Tendaji Ganges. Another mentor I had, Tawana Parks, they always used to say, I've been your age, you've never been mine, right? But who gets to tell the king that, right? Who's mentoring the king as he goes in age, right? Some of them are blessed to have like an advisor that might be of a certain age, but even this advisor has never been king, right? So I feel like most kings freestyle as they go. No one man is meant to ever have that much power because no one can tell you what to do. You're the first under God, right? And so how do we know if God is tutoring you the right way on your kingdom? I feel personally, a lot of people, humans in general, we're flawed. So power is, it's a drug. It's the wine, right? Wine can be great for occasions until you've had 3 bottles and you start saying things you probably shouldn't say. Who's gonna stop the king from taking a drink? He's like, oh man, I passed that bill and I beheaded those, I shouldn't have done that. You were right. Who does he say that to? Well, according to the Elizabethan world picture, God. So we're supposed to trust his conversations with God. Attacking no religion in particular, but mega churches, right? Once pastors, imams, rabbis, once they get too much of a following, the message changes and how it must be delivered, right? Now your reputation is under the microscope. Now, is he really talking to God? Can we trust what he said? Okay, I'm gonna trust my life and my soul and what this man or woman is saying. I'm gonna trust their leadership. And you watch the king drink and have concubines and then, preach the next day and, summon the clouds. It had to be somebody that didn't trust this. There had to be a Kenn Hopkins at the time that was like, who's tutoring this guy? Like, how could you trust one man to run millions of us? Get out of here. Unless it's me. Now, Cymbeline, yes, Sibling, great king. Wait, yeah, another example, well, I'll take both kings. Lear and Cymbeline. What I think is great is the parenthood throughout the whole thing. Like under this duty of being king, you're a parent, right? And both plays shows like what happens in a household and how that affects your duty and what you carry out. Sometimes you're making decisions right after an argument with your daughter. How can we call that a sound decision? Like who's going to check you on that? Even if you had a mentor, as I said earlier, who's in the room while you're having breakfast with your wife and daughter and the argument happens and now they come with a letter from Rome and you probably should think soundly through this, but instead, the eggs are a little runny, you flip your plate, let's go to war. I think looking at all of Shakespeare, well, I won't say all of them, but most of his kings, you can see how we have trouble balancing power, no matter how ultimate it is at the top. Because even if the king isn't corrupt, he's going to be flawed in the friendships he chooses. The fact that you can order somebody beheaded and everyone knows you're wrong about it, but everyone's afraid of the king, no one man should have all that power. My favorite part about working on Gloucester, and not, like you said, not being the king, not being the god, is that he's a father, right? The universal king. And I like the fact that you get to see Gloucester be a father of a lower status running parallel to Lear, right? Because Gloucester has the time to be a father, arguably. And you'll never be perfect. You can never be a perfect parent. You can never be a perfect king. So what I like about Gloucester's storyline is it shows that in the arc with his sons and how blind you can be sometimes. You can think you're being a pure and loving father and have a lot of gaps. And all it takes is one gap that can be the trauma that your child needs to completely try to kill you in this play. I think kill is very strong because we're doing entertainment and it's Shakespeare. But I can remember times where, kids all the time, you want to run away, you just feel like you're right, they don't understand me. Will Smith has the song, Parents Just Don't Understand, right? It's a hit. Everybody loved it because we all have parents, and even parents remember times where mom and dad just didn't understand, no matter how you tried to explain it to them, didn't get it, right? I think that parent position versus king is exactly the same. How could he do that? I don't get, why would he pass that bill? How come he's not doing this? Because if it doesn't help us personally, we're gonna be offended by it. And if we're not offended, we're gonna investigate and look for the offense, right? Just like with your parents. I couldn't wear that suit to prom. How come we don't have the money for that? It's probably because you spent it on something, right? I think it's just human nature to be petty, you know. I think part of the journey in being a child versus a parent, I think the lesson all around, you're perfect once you become a grandparent, I feel. Then you get to hear your child, you get to give them all the I told you so's. Then once they have kids, Mom and Dad, did I used to do that? Yes, yes, you did. I first got into Shakespeare, this is kind of how what brought me all the way into theater formally. I did a show when I was about 10 years old. I was in a camp at University of Michigan Flint, and they brought us in. We did this play with clocks. I played a stopwatch, and all the text was tick, tock, tock, tick, and it was just different qualities of whatever watch you were, right? Of course, the grandfather watch, tick. I should have got that role, but whatever. I played the stopwatch, and the career was on hold from there because my parents just couldn't afford the program that was trying to recruit me. High school, I think I was in 11th grade, and Miss Carr, bless her, we read Hamlet, and she came over and she said, oh, read for this one, and she had me read Claudius. I read that and I was like, man, this is nice. Once I believed I could speak Old English, I just never saw myself, you know, little black kid from Flint, you know, coming from the urban area that could read Shakespeare and people would believe what I say. And so that became kind of addictive, to be like the only one that could do it in the class, I guess. And she kind of pumped that up in me, and it led to me auditioning for a scholarship at U of M Flint. Now, the first play I was in, first ever Shakespeare play I was in, was Titus Andronicus. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought all the plays were like that bloody and gruesome. To anybody out there, if you haven't read it or seen it, please, it's the best, it's a great start. Because I feel like the gore and the action and the betrayal kind of keeps you attracted to the plot, to where you don't think about the language. You don't separate yourself from the language. Dan Garrix, he was an acting professor in Flint. He hired me on. He was like, hey, I need you for this guy, Aaron Demore. Probably still my favorite role in the canon. Then I had a chance to formally do Shakespeare, scansion, text work and all, under Janet Haley in A Midsummer's Night Dream, which I play Oberon, and one of the Clark brothers, Josh, yeah, they look alike, played Puck. And so from there, it's just been addictive. I love the fact that typically when people meet me, you just wouldn't think I do Shakespeare for whatever society thinks of what a person who does Shakespeare should look like or sound like or act like, behave. And I just kind of like to work those two against each other. Like a lot of my friends still in Flint still don't know that I do Shakespeare or have never even seen me on stage, some of them. So when they finally like, wow, you do Shakespeare? Man, that's pretty tough. I enjoy being able to spread the word to like the young kids. So like, man, this stuff is easy, man. It's the same language you speak, you know? So I'm glad I can bring simplicity to Shakespeare and make people feel like they have access to both perform it, read it, and of course, watch. Definitely the community that funds his works and pontificates upon the theory of the characters. Those people definitely have a certain crest about them. I enjoy coming into an industry and being able to knock all that down, build something new back up. I am the new king.